Greetings, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here in the Magnificence Lab. The last few days, it's been on my mind about the idea of unmet needs and expectations. So I remember from years ago when I was working with a particular consultant, he was teaching us about resolving conflict and how it was part of a team development initiative. And of course, lots of times with team development, conflict arises because of differing personalities, different goals and things people are seeking, and of course, unmet needs and expectations. So I think about how this might be one piece of resolving some of what hurts our hearts or causes us grief in relation to relationships. So let's think about the first time you ever fell in love, right? That euphoric feeling of wow, this person, I'm really attracted to this person, and I really care about them, and you're getting to know them, and you seem to have a lot of simpatico, and it's wonderful. And of course, it would be foolish to assume that we had no expectations around the outcome, after the first date. I know as a young woman, I had such stars in my eyes, and I'm projecting, oh, wouldn't this be wonderful to spend my life with this person? And I'm already envisioning the wedding, and we've just had the first date. That was a little unrealistic in many cases because sometimes the second date didn't turn out so well. And I decided, nah, I wasn't really in love. And so as we grow, we learn, right? So, but the thing is, when the relationship does develop in the direction that both of you want, it's good to have a good look at and to consider, what are my expectations in relation to this connection? What's important to me? What is most important to me? What don't I care about? What is it that I um, cherish above everything else? And what is it can I let go of and say, actually, in the whole scheme of things, that's not that important. And of course, to find out what our partner feels as well. What are their expectations in the relationship? What needs do they have that the filling of them would make the relationship grow and blossom even more? So there's a particular security, I think, that comes from having our needs met. It was beautifully expressed, I think, in the book on the love languages, the five love languages, that talks about some people have a real desire for acts of service. So I am so grateful when people do acts of service on my behalf. It just kind of fills my soul because I feel seen and cherished as a result of that. So that's one of my love languages. Attention, undivided attention is another big one. So imagine, if you will, on the other side of the fence. So here, the man in my life had this burning desire to look after me and give me whatever I wanted. And part of the way of doing that was to work long hours and work hard and put in lots of overtime so that the financial coffers got filled up. And I'm left alone because he's fulfilling his desire and his need to provide. And of course, he was brought up with this expectation. Well, this is the role of men. You're expected to provide. And the role of women, which is one of more of nurturing and this loving attention, is a little bit at odds with that at times. And so I could see in my own relationship, and I've seen in many others, how easy it is for couples to grow apart without them even realizing it, because their needs and expectations are not meshing. So there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong with them, but the situation has become a little unbearable at times. And sometimes the final separation is because none of their needs or expectations are being met on either side. And so there's nothing left. So now that's, I've had that in my life and a couple of times, and it didn't feel good. In fact, it was kind of hell on earth. And so what's the antidote? Well, in this conflict resolution workshop we were taking, the first part is a clear, open, and honest discussion around what is it that you most need in this moment. Do you have some needs that are not being met at this time? You ask the people here who are on strike right now, the postal workers and the pending teacher strike here in Alberta. Well, you can bet they have lots of unmet needs, and they have certain expectations that aren't being addressed either. So, and of course, the opposite side, in from the employers and the government's perspective, they have some unmet needs and expectations too. Well, let's put them out on the table. Let's not have a whole herd of elephants in the room, because the only way to begin to resolve the conflict is through understanding, through us really listening and hearing, oh, I didn't know that was important to you. And it can be a real shock when you find out that someone has some unmet needs that could easily be resolved, except you didn't know about them. Oh, I didn't know that that was that important to you. Oh, well, now that I know, then is there something I can do to make that happen? And especially what's so fascinating to me is that sometimes what's really important to one person is not important at all to the other one. So they have no clue that this expectation and this unmet need is causing such grief. And just cluing in can make a vast difference, can really give people the opportunity to say, oh, I see. We had an opportunity to work with two people as a little experiment one time, two women who were part of a volunteer group, and they were just at odds, like they were butting heads all the time, and it was causing turmoil within the organization because of this conflict. And they didn't want to be in conflict. They just didn't know what was wrong. They couldn't sort it out. And both lovely women and very talented and skilled at what they did, and providing valuable contribution to the organization. So they were willing and open to walk through this process with them. And it was such a treat to watch them open up and be vulnerable to their unmet needs. And this is why this is what's happening, and this is why I'm feeling this way towards you, or because of something you did or something you said or whatever. So this dialogue is going back and forth between the two of them. And I'm sure it was scary for them. I mean, it was a little scary for us to be facilitating this, because we wanted a positive outcome and we didn't know how that was going to happen. Fortunately, our expert consultant had drilled into us the importance of trusting the process. So we just step by step went through this tested process and got these two opening up. And then it was time to move into, when the air was cleared, and they recognized, oh, we didn't know what was so heavy on your heart. And now we do. So then the next step was to begin a negotiation of, okay, we're going to work together. We've recognized and acknowledged that we're very different from one another and we have very different needs and expectations. Well, what can I do? I don't care about this, but I do care about that. So if there's something you can help me here, that would be really important because this other thing is not an issue for me. So there's a negotiation going on, and step by step, they worked it through. We were just guiding the process. But the magic happened when the two of them, first of all, cleared the air, got the feelings out, addressed that in a compassionate way, and then we're able to move to the next level and say, okay. So I can remember this happening, and oh, and before I move on, the result was spectacular. I was so impressed with the work that these two women had done. And from then on, they never grew to be best buddies, but there was a respect there between them, and there was no more conflict. They resolved the conflict. And they also knew if something arose that caused a trigger or whatever, that they had the ability to address that head on, deal with it, and then move on. So that was a beautiful, beautiful process. In my own life, there was a point in time when my second husband and I had split up. There was some acrimony going on, and it was painful and it was hurtful, and we both felt trapped, each on our sides, and there was some of that, he said, she said, who's the victim, who's the persecutor. Oh my goodness, it was hard. There came a point when like a spit's worth of sanity surfaced, and we had an open and honest sharing of what was causing each of us respective grief, where we were at. And my former husband said to me, it's not my intention to cause you pain. And and I'm, what? And so there was this little window that I immediately jumped through in a positive way. And as we talked, we remembered that at the very, very beginning of our relationship, we had vowed to one another that no matter what happened in moving our relationship forward, we always wanted to be friends. Well, it was at that moment that that process got started. So even though we finished the divorce process and agreed to go our separate ways, on another level, we began to mend the relationship of as friends. And we began to think about where each of us had played a role in the breakdown of the relationship. We took responsibility for our part in what was going on, and through that, I forgave him. I forgave myself. He forgave me. He forgave himself. Said, "Well, we did the best we could. We didn't know how to do it any differently. So how else could it have turned out?" And so we let go of a lot of that old baggage that can hang around in relationships because of hurt feelings and shattered dreams and the grief that comes from that. And now I can say that even though uh, we've not had a marriage relationship for many years now, we are good friends. And I value that, and I value that the fact that our family has benefited from that because they don't have to tiptoe around either one of us. We're both included in family events, and we share um, as much as we can in the joys of being part of a family. So he is part of my family. I've known him a lot longer than most people in my life, and so and I'm grateful that we were able to come to that place, that we honored our original vow to maintain a friendship. Even though we had some tough years and some rocky years, it helped. And a lot of it was because we came to understand that these unmet needs and expectations that were never talked about, that were kept silent. I didn't have the courage to speak up for fear of things getting worse. I'm sure he was in the same boat as me. And there we are, blindly going along, living this misery when all we needed to do was speak up. So it does take great courage to live your convictions, to live what's important to you, to speak up about that. And when you do, I guarantee it's going to bring a peace to your heart that you didn't have before. It will bring a peace to your relationships that maybe were missing. And of course, it's all about this opening up to this magnificence that we are, right? So we have it in us. It's just we maybe have lacked the skills, or it didn't get bad enough to rise to the burning desire to, okay, I'm doing something about this now. I'm not letting this go any longer. So I didn't get relationship training in high school. I've stumbled and bumbled into it really my whole life, and I'm grateful that I'm now at a place where I've learned a lot. I also know that there's a lot more for me to learn, and the people in my life are teaching me all the time how to be a better person in relationship, and I value that. I really do. So today I want to challenge you to think about your unmet needs and expectations and say, okay, how might you get those addressed? And is there someone else involved in this? I mean, sometimes we have our own needs and expectations of ourselves that we don't meet. And then we beat up on ourselves because, oh, yeah, you failed again. And oh, dear, you know, life, right? So I'm challenging you. Take a look at your unmet needs and expectations. Is there a way to resolve that, to get that proverbial monkey off your back and give yourself some ease and peace so that you can just grow into more and more of the magnificence that you already are? On a side note, if you have this yearning to be part of a community of like-minded souls who were just walking each other home towards our magnificence, and you don't have that in your life, check out the Magnificence Lab. So this is a little call to action. If you go to magnificencelab.org, there's an application form that you can fill out to find out more about the lab, and then I'll be in touch to chat more about it. There's also podcasts and some information about who we are in the lab and what we're up to. I just invite you to connect with that. At the very least, please subscribe to my videos, and then you'll get the alert for even more coming up. Go be your magnificent selves, and we'll see you next time.